This is a Bergen Film Club podcast.
Like an old movie removed from the frame, I am floating and looking for someone to blame. Won't you project me on the walls of your heart? I'm waiting for the real thing to start.
Hello! Welcome to The Real Thing. I'm your host, Joe Lawrence. The Real Thing is a podcast that is an extension of Bergen Film Club, which is an independent cinema in Bergen, Norway. This podcast aims to talk about the films that we show in the film club and provide extra context, explain why we chose them and why they're cool, why you should see them. Today, oh my god, amazing, exciting. Today on the podcast, I had the absolute pleasure of having a first director interview with Ella Glendining, who is the director of the documentary Is There Anybody Out There, which came out in 2023. This movie was shown at Bergen International Film Festival last year, and I loved it so much. It's such an amazing, poignant, powerful, well-made documentary, and I decided to reach out to Ella and see if she would talk to us, and she said yes. So the rest of this episode is going to be about is going to be that interview that we did. Thank you so much again to Ella. She is a British filmmaker. This is her first kind of like feature debut. She's made several shorts beforehand, and the film itself is a documentary that focuses as her as kind of the leading character that we follow through basically a journey over about 3 or 4 years, following her kind of relationship with her own disability and how she is perceived and looking for someone to kind of share her experience with, since she has quite a unique disability. And you just follow her character and follow her life and how she changes and her understanding of the disability. And I found my own kind of perception of disability changing as a non-disabled person who lives very privileged in a way, I suppose, that I don't have to deal with any kind of ableism or any kind of prejudice in that regard, but it totally changed my perspective on so much. But Ella is a wonderful filmmaker and an awesome person. I had a great time talking to her. She's currently working on her new fiction debut, writing the script for it called Curiosities of Fools, which is a period drama, which she talks about in the interview. We talked about a lot of stuff. It was really awesome, and thank you so much again. And yeah, this is super exciting. So I hope you enjoy. This was really cool. Yeah, here it is. Hello. uh, Thank you so much for being here, for talking to me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Yeah, I've been thinking about your documentary since I watched it, basically. It was really amazing. I just wanted to kind of start the interview by saying how much I really, really liked it.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind. I can't remember anything about it now. I've not watched it in ages.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to see it at BIFF, which Bergen International Film Festival. Yeah, we showed it. We showed it then, and I was working as one of the projectionists, so I actually got to see it a couple times.
Oh,
Um, yeah, but really, really great. I'm looking very much to talking about it.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So I thought it would be nice to just start with like some more fun questions, I guess, kind of start in a good mood. But I just firstly wanted to congratulate you for all of the amazing nominations and accolades that you've been getting for this documentary.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, it must be really exciting. I wanted to ask you like how has this experience been kind of like post the film and receiving all of this praise?
Yeah, it's been so many things. It's been totally amazing. I mean, stuff of my wildest dreams in a lot of ways. And it's also been crazy and exhausting. Um, but yeah, it's still surreal. Like I'm so happy with the way it's being received by disabled people and non-disabled people. Um, it's doing exactly what I wanted it to do. I think it's really opening eyes and really speaking to the disabled community and humanizing us as well, which was like my main goal with the film. So yeah, I've really thrown myself in and embraced all the sort of traveling to festivals and stuff in the last year. I've been doing a lot of traveling globally and in the UK and Ireland. Um, and it's been a mixed bag because I have had some amazing interactions with audience members. Like I've had conversations I'll never ever forget with mainly with disabled people. But equally I have experienced a lot of ableism whilst doing all this traveling because I think, I mean, it's kind of a known fact within the disability community that traveling is just exhausting for disabled people, no matter what.
Hmm.
So it's been hard, it's been challenging, but also, yeah, I wouldn't change it for the world. It's been amazing.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, it's been somewhat positive and just like BAFTA nominated. That's so exciting.
It is so exciting. I think to be completely honest, I was quite disappointed not to win. And
Hmm.
all my friends have commented that when the winner was walking down the stairs, you could see me and I looked really grumpy.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't know how I would react in that situation. I feel like I also wouldn't be able to like fake clap kind of.
I mean, I was happy for her. She's
Yeah,
I know her a bit and her film is amazing and important. But yeah, you get swept up in it.
yeah. Oh, I imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, lastly, I just thought maybe this was like kind of like a fun question that you were this BFI jury kind of nomination. I wanted to ask you what it was like meeting Tilda Swinton.
Yeah. Um, it was a really big moment for me actually, because she is one of my ultimate heroes.
Wow.
Uh, yeah. A film she was in, you probably know it, Orlando,
Hmm.
um, is like the biggest inspiration for the next project that I'm working on, and I love that film. It was probably almost life-changing for me to watch.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I love so much of her work. So I was really starstruck, and I don't
Yeah.
normally get starstruck, but I was clapping and like gushing, and I mentioned Orlando and said how much it meant to me, and she was so lovely. She was totally did not disappoint. We had a really great chat, and she'd watched my film and loved my film, and yeah, said she was really proud of me, which was amazing. And I
That's
now
so
have her number in my phone.
wow.
I know, it's cool.
Oh, that's really because I love her as well, so that's it's good to hear that she lives up to the hype in a way.
Definitely. In
Hmm.
fact, she was nicer than I imagined.
Wow, okay. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, okay. So I think now we can kind of get into the process of you making this documentary. So I have some kind of questions lined up around that, and we can just take it from there.
Cool.
So if you can think way kind of back pre the documentary, when did you kind of decide that this was a story that you wanted to tell?
So initially, I knew I wanted to make a film about ableism and about disabled kinship. And I knew I wanted it to be about the experience of living in a very unusual looking body. And that idea had been sort of floating around for, yeah, I guess a few years. in
Hmm.
2018. But it was quite vague when I initially applied for development funding from
Yeah.
the Doc Society. Well, it wasn't that vague, but yeah, it wasn't necessarily going to be quite so personal. Although I did decide that I was happy to be in it.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, the story just really evolved over the years that I was making the film. There are lots of things in the film that I didn't expect would be even remotely touched on, and equally the kind of the core of the story, my search for other people like me, remained. So yeah.
Yeah, that was another thing that I kind of wanted to touch on. It's something that you've talked about before, but yeah, like, did you have any kind of like reservation making yourself like such the focus of the movie? Because it's like incredibly vulnerable, but and powerful, and I don't want to say exposing, but kind of exposing in a way. Like, did you have any reservations kind of deciding that, or?
Um, yeah, no, sort of no, because I am a bit of an exhibitionist. But um, and also, especially while I was actually, shooting it, it all felt a little bit up in the air, and a bit, is it even going to happen? Although I kind of knew it was. Knowing that I am the director and that I am going to get the final say in how it's put together in the edit was, I think, what kept those feelings of vulnerability and fear at bay.
Hmm.
But then when it did come to the edit, that's when it sort of really hit me, that it was going to be a very personal film and feel
Yeah.
really exposing. Because I was having to make decisions. I was having to look at myself as a character rather than myself, and I was having to make decisions that served the story but didn't necessarily like paint me in the most flattering light, for example. Like, so that was a bit of a challenge, and I had to leave the editing suite for a week and let my editor just like crack on and make her own decisions, because the film wasn't working, and I think that's because I was finding it hard to completely let go of my ego or whatever.
Hmm.
And then when it came out, when it screened at Sundance, the world premiere, I was very naive, and I didn't realize that like as soon as it screened, there'd be a million reviews online and stuff. So that
Yeah.
was another,
Yeah.
that was another moment of, oh my Lord, this is people are going to come for me and celebrate me, obviously. But it's all very new to me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I just think like you detail so many kind of like facets of yourself. But I think that's what really like made it work for me, is that having that complete vulnerability is like makes you so easy to connect with kind of like as a character, and so easy to follow and kind of connect with. It's really powerful, and especially like kind of, which is something I wanted to talk to you kind of in the similar vein, like kind of in the first half of the movie, you're kind of detailing your whole pregnancy. Like
Yeah.
that must have been difficult in a way, especially in this like kind of like editing character situation as well. And congratulations on having a child also.
Thank you. It's old news now. He's just about to turn 5.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, was it difficult? Um, do you know what? I was so obsessed with the film, and I I was so intent on like recording everything
Mhm.
that again, it didn't really feel difficult while I was doing it, even though, you don't, there's so much in the film, of course, about my life that you don't see. Like, I was actually very depressed stuff straight after I had River. I really had a hard time adjusting to motherhood. I
Yeah.
love it now.
Hmm.
So it was kind of a hard time personally, but actually the film was like a really nice, um, just like constant and something to work towards, even though I was also adjusting to being a mum, which is like a
Yeah.
whole new lifestyle, whole new life, really.
Yeah.
Um, like for example, filming the birth, um, that was people are like, sort of surprised that I was willing to do that. But there was never any question in my mind. I would have been absolutely furious if I was not, permitted to film the birth. Luckily, the hospital were totally fine with it. But
Hmm.
yeah, no, it was really important to me. And it felt totally natural. Like I've been filming so much, it was like I had to, you know.
Definitely, yeah. Before I'd like, I feel like that connects quite nicely to what I wanted to ask next anyway, but um, just kind of like touching on this kind of like vulnerability aspect, like including all of like you having like very frank conversations like with your own mother and oh, very sorry about forgetting the friend who you interview quite frankly as well. Yeah.
My
Um,
friend Naomi. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, that's right, sorry. Um, yeah, like how when you kind of approach them to be in it in a way, like did they have any reservation kind of opening up in that way or
so my mum and dad didn't. They were up for it.
yeah.
Or if they had reservations, I don't remember them stating them. Um, I, especially with my mum, we have like a really open relationship. Yeah, something that she did really well in raising me was always encouraging me to talk about my feelings. So
Yeah.
it wasn't like, yeah, it wasn't like this. It didn't feel unnatural to have these conversations with them.
Mhm.
And I'm really grateful that my mum was willing to let me include a bit of the story about her alcoholism, for
Yeah.
example, because I thought it was really important not to paint my parents as total heroes, because I think that's like a really damaging disability trope that
Yeah.
our
Mm.
parents or like carer figures or partners are saintly for having us in their lives and whatever. So yeah, I'm really grateful for their honesty and willingness to delve deep. And Naomi, she was up for it and she wanted to do it, but she was terrified. She's a really private person,
Mhm.
and she's experienced so much ableism in her life. So she's the person I think I'm most grateful to, really, because I think that her story and our scenes are the most important part of the film in a lot of ways. So yeah, she was hesitant, but also she was like instrumental in the editing process with her scene. Um, I would always send her where we're up to with the scene and get her feedback to make sure that she felt fairly represented.
Mm. Yeah, but those were like those conversations were just I felt so like drawn in those moments. Like what you're talking about is yeah, just really powerful stuff. Mm.
Oh, thanks. You're so kind.
Yeah, but I really liked the movie. I'm not gonna hide. I was like thinking if I should be kind of like very professional and like have no opinion, but I can't hide how much I
No,
liked it.
thanks. I respond really well to praise, so keep going.
Okay, good to know. Um, yeah, so it sounds like yeah, like the process even before making the movie was kind of a period of years, but the film itself spans a really long time. And you know, it's like you said like 2018 and then it's all the way through COVID and then like a little bit afterwards. We can kind of talk about that process, but I was kind of wondering if the outcome of the film, you know, like is that kind of what you imagined going into it, or did it kind of evolve in the way that it kind of evolves throughout the time?
Um, no, I don't think the outcome was exactly what I was expecting. As I said, I knew that it was ultimately going to be about the power of disabled kinship, but there was genuinely a part of me that felt as if there was something that was always missing. And I think this strange kind of slightly delusional part that thought if I found someone exactly like me, who looked exactly like me, body wise, that I would, yeah, have found some sort of psychic soulmate. I don't know. It was all a bit crazy because, like, in hindsight, of course, I'm not going to find someone exactly like me, but I was very fixated in that, and I really had no idea how I was going to feel when I did meet people with my condition. So it was very, very liberating in a way to discover that there's so much diversity within my disability, and even more so
Hmm.
that actually there's there is nobody who will look exactly like me. Like it's a real range of conditions. And also um it was amazing meeting Priscilla and Ricardo and Charlie, the people with my condition. in the
Yeah.
film. And there were so many amazing similarities between us, but it wasn't like that firework moment. It was just meeting other people who had a shared experience in the world, but who were very different to me.
Yeah.
And really what I wanted was just to get back to Naomi and the other disabled friends that are in my life and like share my experience with them. So yeah, it was more about the power of the disabled kinship and community than I was expecting in a way, and less about my
Hmm.
finding someone like me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you see that really throughout the document as something that I feel like you do notice this kind of like perspective change in you as the movie kind of goes on. Like even like the with the beginning being kind of like a focus on you being very focused on having a natural birth in a way. I feel like in the kind of the outcome of you not having that, I feel like even that is just kind of like that was such a interesting thing to watch because in a way it's like yeah, you had this like very clear goal in a way, like whether it was the birth or you wanting to find someone exactly like you in a way. It was like really interesting to watch a film where you kind of can see this very clear shift in direction in a way.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you picked up on that. Yeah, the natural birth thing, I forgot about that, but that's a good example of how, yeah, I wanted it to be one way and it turned out to be exactly the other. It was really interesting because I really didn't think I had any internalized ableism, which I know sounds silly, but it was, even though I only mention it briefly really in the film, it was a huge thing for me, the
Yeah.
desire to have a natural birth and to realize that that was ableism.
Hmm.
It is like it's crazy when I really don't care what people's bodies or brains can do. Like that's the whole point. That's why I'm so kind of, yeah, disabled and proud and why I make the work that I do. So yeah, it was a bit of like a mind-blowing thing to realize that I was desperately trying to prove myself as worthy as a human being and a woman and whatever. And actually I'm really glad I didn't bother trying to push it out now. Like I don't know, it's like why would I want to do that anyway?
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, kind of similarly because I feel like in even in my own head because like I I'm not disabled and my experience of the world obviously is not being a disabled person and kind of through viewing the film I guess in a kind of just like innate ableist way I guess I never really thought of like especially when you're talking to these this surgeon and or the doctor and people discussing whether like want to have surgery on their children and then through the conversation that you were having with your own mum kind of being like well there's actually nothing wrong there's nothing to be fixed which with your mum I just thought that was such like an amazing moment but I thought you kind of see kind of like an ambivalence in yourself especially when you were talking to the doctor I feel like the more that you did that the more uncomfortable I feel like you seemed through the conversation. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about kind of that experience about hearing about these surgery decisions and then talking to these parents who've made these decisions as well.
Yeah, that was definitely an element of the film that I didn't know was going to be in the film. Um,
Okay.
Conversation about surgery. Yeah, uncomfortable is a polite way of putting it. But I I knew that that was a big conversation on this Facebook page, which I used to track most people down
Yeah.
on. I knew it was a lot of parents discussing the best surgery, but when I was like really delving deep and trying to find people for the film, it was just all I saw. And there was just no mention of like alternative options, i.e. not medical intervention
Okay.
or not surgery. um, and yeah, I found it really distressing and not actually for me personally. It wasn't the reason I found it distressing was not so much about the brutality of these operations, and they are pretty brutal.
Yeah, yeah.
They're huge invasive surgeries, often multiple surgeries with no fixed result, which I don't think I talk about enough in the film, perhaps. But anyway, yeah, it was much more for me about the denial of who you are. That's what I'm worried about for these children who are having these operations, is that, for them it will feel like their parents who have made these decisions, obviously they're doing what they feel is best, and yeah, the parents are doing what they feel is best for the child, but the messages that they're giving them, the message they're giving them is, you're not enough as you are, you need to change. And it just doesn't bear thinking about, for me, how that's going to affect you growing up. And I mean, I say it doesn't bear thinking about, but I've heard so many stories since the film's been out about how badly it has affected people, and very few success stories. There are, of course, success stories, but yeah. So the meeting with Dr. Paley was really difficult, for that reason. Um, it felt really personal, and I was really nervous. I had to down 2 glasses of wine before going to meet. I really did. And yeah, I didn't challenge him for a couple of reasons. Like, I didn't, yeah, I mean, this film obviously is challenging him, but I didn't challenge him in person when we met. Partly because, yeah, it just felt personal, and I felt sick about the whole thing. I didn't want to meet him, but I knew that I had to for the film and for my journey. And yeah, also I wanted to let him have his say. Like, I didn't want to paint him as the villain and have a go at him. And also, like, what would be the point? I'm not going to change his mind. So yeah, I wanted to let the audience decide for themselves.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that must obviously difficult to talk about and stuff, but I mean, in doing that, I feel like that message got communicated to me very clearly. It's not something that I feel like I've really actively considered or thought about, that like surgeries like
Thank
this, like necessarily uh like they don't need to be done, kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah, which is I found that so eye-opening. Yeah, and then kind of the experience of that was such an incredibly emotional moment when you were uh talking to the mother of the child that you met in America. I just was wondering if you could talk a little bit about
yeah.
that experience, because that was really powerful.
Thank you. Yeah, meeting Charlie's mum, Chelsea, was something I was also apprehensive about, because so far all my conversations with parents, of children like me, had been about what surgery route they're going to take.
Yes.
That's what I was expecting from Chelsea. I didn't know anything about her stance. I didn't know anything about her and Charlie really before we met. So yeah, I get really emotional when I had this conversation with Chelsea, because I was relieved. Basically, I was so relieved that she was thinking critically about it, and that she saw Charlie as perfect as he is. Um, it was just the first time I'd encountered that attitude, and to yeah, meet her in person and have that chat was just, it was really beautiful. Um, and I was also so emotional just because, well, obviously I was a mum at that point. Charlie and River aren't that far apart in age.
Mhm.
And I was just watching Charlie and thinking, yeah, well, I say it in the film, just like, you are perfect, like, you're absolutely perfect. And he hasn't had any surgery, and he's living his best life, and he's seen the film and he loves it. And it's,
Mm.
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like that's exactly kind of the point that you put through the movie, but also the point that I felt like you proved to yourself, like you didn't need to see someone like you. You just it was like a
Exactly.
connection or an affirmation. I think that's what you've given so many people with this movie.
Thank you so much.
Hmm. Yeah, I thought it interesting. I was reading some interviews that you had written, and I was interested in this point that you made, that about um, alienating non-disabled people through the movie. But I was wondering if like I found the film arresting in several ways, because it kind of confronts you, or like me, the viewer, with their own ableism in a way. And but rather that I thought this is like it's an education point, it's something to learn and kind of grow from. But I was wondering what like specifically about it you thought would be alienating to a
Thank
non-disabled audience.
I can't remember saying that, but it was definitely always something that I was like juggling and weighing up in my head because I wanted the film to reach non-disabled people and disabled people.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, without kind of diluting my message or making it too kind of too palatable and commercial, whatever. Um, I think yeah, my big fear was I didn't want non-disabled people to feel attacked, particularly with the whole surgery strand.
Hmm.
I was terrified of hurting people, hurting parents of disabled children. But I was more terrified of letting my community down by um yeah, not making the points that I felt were important to make and yeah, watering down my message in any way. So um yeah, it was a balance that I think I got right. And funnily enough, I have my worst nightmare has come true. Like
Oh.
just in the in the, I was really scared of hurting parents of disabled children.
Hmm.
And even if I disagree with with their decisions and stuff, I just really don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Like I really don't.
Hmm.
Um and I met but I haven't had hadn't had any criticism in that vein. So I was like, thank God, I must have got it like completely right. But then the other day or the other week, I was in Dublin doing a talk for yeah, something. And there was a mother in the audience who put her hand up and was crying and said, yeah, my daughter's just had some major surgery and I don't wish that she was non-disabled. And she was obviously really affronted by what I was saying in my talk. And she hadn't watched the film at that point. And yeah, she was really hurt. She felt really attacked. And I think I'd probably said something, perhaps worded something in a slightly flippant way about parents wanting their children to be non-disabled. Um, but I hurt her and it was, I felt sick. It was a horrible, horrible moment. But amazingly we managed to go and kind of talk things out after the
Yeah.
Q&A and had a really amazing conversation. And
Okay.
we follow each other on Instagram and her daughter's adorable and yeah, it was fine. But yeah.
Yeah, but I can imagine kind of, you know, in that regard, then I do understand what people would find particularly confronting about it, or maybe, you know, like we can say that, but like them having had to make that decision or just think that that's what they have to do, kind of, and having a reservation about it, then that's kind of like picking at a point that they obviously already feel very anxious about in a way, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. She was really triggered. But yeah, just very quickly, another thing I'll say on that is that, and I said to her, is that I'm really not anti-medical intervention. It's not about that.
No, yeah.
It's exactly as my mum says in the film, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's my standpoint. And yeah, I just believe in, and this mother was like so proud of her daughter and thought she was the most gorgeous, amazing little person in the world. And the condition that she had was totally different from mine. And the surgery, when she described it to me, I was like, yeah, I'd do that for my kid. Like it would have
Mm.
transformed her life. It's very different to the sort of operations that I'm talking about in the film.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like almost in a way, and like obviously, correct me if I feel like it's almost like an aesthetic change, basically,
Yes.
ultimately.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I guess just on the back of that, like just kind of finishing that point, was yeah, like obviously we talked about kind of like you making yourself such the focus of the film and that making kind of editing a challenge in a way, but in this kind of a way that you were worried about confronting people in a certain way, was there anything that you were like really apprehensive about putting in? Was it like just this interview with this Dr. Paley or stuff that you were considering kind of taking out in a way to make it like a bit less confronting?
No, actually, by the end of it, my worry more was that it wasn't confronting enough.
Oh yeah.
I was worried about the parents of disabled children. That didn't go away. I was very worried about that. I think, yeah, actually, okay. The bit where I'm sitting outside Dr. Paley's office afterwards, and I'm trying to be nice about him, and I'm like, yeah, I liked him a bit more than I imagined. And then I say, it's awful, it's awful, it's awful. So I was a bit worried about that, but also I love that bit. And then, yeah, the other side of it is that I was worried that, I mean, this is quite a watered down version of me that you see in the film, because I was trying to make it universal, and kind of relatable to all. And actually, I'm a very angry person.
Mm.
I'm very, very, very angry about the injustices that disabled people have to face. So yeah, I was a little bit worried that perhaps my message for the disabled community was a little bit basic. But I don't think it matters. I think it's simple but not basic, and it seems to be connecting with people profoundly. So whatever, I must have done okay.
Absolutely. I think you did more than okay. I guess that's all kind of what I wanted to say specifically about the movie or wanted to ask you. But yeah, just, wonderful movie. And I feel very lucky that I got to see it.
Hooray,
Um,
thank you. I think you're my biggest fan.
I think so. I'll take that title.
You can start the fan club.
Yeah, I think so. I'll get on that. Um, yeah. Before I wanted to ask you a bit about your next project, but yeah, did you always want to be a filmmaker? Like, is that something you've wanted your whole life?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, I probably wanted it before I knew I wanted it. Like my favorite thing has always been watching films. Um, one of my favorite childhood memories is going to the video shop with my mum, and she's really into good films. So she's probably she's the person who got me into films, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I did. I didn't sort of go straight to uni or film school from college. I had a few years out working like normal jobs, and I think maybe part of the reason why I didn't go straight for the dream is internalized ableism, perhaps. Maybe I didn't have enough faith in myself, I don't know. But eventually I went to art school to study film, and it was like really amazing. It was like I just knew that I was doing exactly what I should
Mm,
be doing. Yeah. Yeah.
good. Yeah. Where did you go to art school?
Norwich University of the Arts.
Nice. Okay. And like, was it kind of a surprise in a way that your first film was a documentary?
So I made a bunch of short films like straight after graduating.
Yep.
I mean, not one after the other, but yeah, in the years after graduating. I tried, and I touch on this a tiny bit in the film, in the documentary. I tried to get into the industry and like test the waters to see if it would be a place that I could work my way up to being a director, like most people would. But yeah, I just doing a bit of production work and stuff very quickly realized that it's just totally inaccessible to me. It was never going to happen. I knew that I was just going to have to make stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it being a documentary, although fiction is my first love and writing is my first love, it was quite strategic because I felt that making a documentary, and particularly a personal film, would be easier to get made basically than to like try and make a fiction feature. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm definitely much more focused on fiction now that I've got this documentary out of my system, and I'm sick of documentary for the moment.
Okay. Yeah, but then let's get to it. You're working on this project now, writing, directing a debut fiction film called Curiosities of Fools. Oh
Yes,
yeah, go ahead,
that's
tell me all about it.
okay, thank you. Yeah, I love talking about this. I'm obsessed at the moment and really excited about it. So I'm writing it for the BFI. I will also direct it, but yeah, God, who knows when. It'll probably be years, will
Hmm.
definitely be years really before it all comes to fruition. But it's about the life of a court dwarf in the 1600s, in the court of King Charles I and Queen Henrietta Maria. And it's all about his journey to overcoming his internalized ableism and finding community and love within the court fools of the palace. So it's, yeah, very similar themes to my documentary, which I think will just be the case forever
Yeah.
with all my films. But yeah, totally different story, totally different setting. And I'm really excited about it because it is just such a great story, if I do say so myself. And it's so dramatic and yeah, just totally different. And although disability is totally implicit in the narrative and in the characters, first and foremost, it's just a great story.
Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds very exciting. I wonder if have you been doing like a lot of research on the time period?
Well, actually, no. I mean, yeah, over the sort of years, because I've been working on it on some capacity in the last like couple of years.
Yeah.
So I have done a bit of research, but I'm like no historian at all. I find it interesting, but like I don't have any knowledge. It goes in my brain and then it goes out the other end of my brain. Um, So yeah, I'm definitely really playing with history, like in the way that like the favorite, which isn't actually my biggest inspiration, but in the way that yeah, for example, the favorite is kind of very loosely based on history, so it's the same sort of thing. It's things happen that are based on real life events, but you know, in a totally different order and in a different time period and whatever. So
Yeah, yeah. That sounds very exciting though. So are you just in the kind of like very pre-production writing stage of it now?
yeah, I've been working really, really hard on a script, just trying to get it to, yeah, get it ready. I think it's quite good. It's in a good place.
Yeah. And you've been working with Janine Marmo.
Marmot, yeah,
Yeah. As yeah, I was like reading about her. It must be a really exciting person to be working with.
yeah, she is the best. She really is the best. It's, the first time, yeah. So she produced my documentary,
Yes.
well, and she's just really experienced and just like amazing. It's such a dream to work with her. I've never worked with a really experienced on the ball producer before, so it was
Mm.
a treat and continues to be a treat. And she's so supportive and lets me get my way in everything.
Yeah. It sounds like a great business relationship then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, wonderful. Um, yeah, but at least for the questions, I think I'm good to end it there, unless there's any kind of like final thoughts that you kind of want to get across.
No, I think I'm fine. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on it. It's been really wonderful.
It's been lovely, lovely to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
This has been a Bergen Film Club production. Our music is by Wise John. Check them out on Instagram at WISEJohnOfficial. Our logo is by Pia Sofia Brentersen. This episode was produced, mixed and engineered by Joe Lawrence. Our researchers are Inke Shilpkai-Ben and Mamina Nazmajid. Want to talk to us about films? Then please send us an email at podcast@bergenfilmclub.com. Follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at TheRealThingPod. Check us out on Letterboxd at BFK The Real Thing. Thank you and goodbye. Listen, follow, leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, or wherever it is that you get your podcasts.